Kraig, can you explain how the Transportation Committee fits within and functions within the Beaufort County government?
We are a separate entity. We are appointed by the 11 district county commissioners, council members, but from that point, that is as far as it goes. We are actually governed by a state statute, and our purview is by South Carolina Department of Transportation.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense right there. Okay, now, looking on the website, which everybody really should do, the Beaufort County website, when we look at the County Transportation Committee, I looked at your meetings minutes, the agendas. There's a massive amount of work that falls under your committee. So how, from a committee perspective, are you prioritizing and progressing, and maybe in a way that we might begin to see very soon?
Absolutely. We went ahead and established what we call 5-year plans. And the 5-year plans gives us a window to look at how good we're doing with our roads. And if we're using bad paving techniques, we'll change them. We know what works and what doesn't work because the environment here is different than you would find in upstate South Carolina. So we're trying to build a track record of things that work. And our 5-year plan is very much, and you can find our newest 5-year plan on our website.
I'll tell you, it's amazing to get on that website. If people want to know what's going on in Beaufort County, there's not a whole lot not to find on that website. So definitely I'm encouraging that. Now, the one really joyous thing I found is when I did look at your website, they talk about the 2023-2024 traffic plan. And in that plan, you've cited some of the achievements of your committee. And I think you really owe it to yourself to share that with our viewers about how much your committee has done.
You're very kind. It's a situation when we took over in 2016. Beaufort County was doing nothing but analyzing roads, dirt roads. And we had no record of any road being ever analyzed. And there's standards which the road should be evaluated under. It's called Pavement Quality Index. Never been accomplished. In our first year, we put it out to bid, got a contractor on board that analyzed our roads, and from that, we developed our first 5-year plan. When we started, we had no roads that were in a very good or very good condition. None. Out of our 200 miles of roads in our county that are county-owned roads. When we completed our first 5-year plan, at 4 years no less, we had 78 miles of roads that were good and very good, and only 1 mile of road that was in very poor condition, and it has been fixed.
That has to be a huge accomplishment. I really find it significant since I moved in right around then. Now, do a lot of people confuse your committee with the upcoming Triangle project? And is there a direct connection at which you'll be involved in that?
We will not be involved in the Triangle project.
Okay. So, encouragement to all of our viewers, go to that website. Thank you for coming in and educating us, and certainly all of us being patient about work that needs to get done.
We have Craig Forrest. Where'd you go, Craig? He is our District 6 rep. He represents Sun City, so yay. And we have Jim Backer, or Jim back there. He's District 5 rep, which is Joe's district. 6 is mine. So Craig is the chair of the committee. He's been the chair since '99. He has survived all these years, just reelected. And this group meets every other month. You can watch it on bcgov.net. I go to the meetings usually. It's very informative. I've learned more about roads than I ever really cared to know. But I'm the liaison to the CTC, that's what we call it, so I do go to their meetings. Now, Craig was chosen recently to present at the South Carolina State Department of Transportation Symposium because they really regard our CTC, our committee, as a model for the state. This group has done wonderful work. Now, some people say, well, they don't fix the potholes, they don't do this, so he'll explain all that. Craig has a Bachelor of Science in Engineering Management, a Master of Science in Engineering Management, and a professional degree, and he was inducted into the Engineering Management Academy. He is founder and president of Gordon Construction. Any tie there. He's done design and build in commercial, industrial contractor. He's a retired lieutenant colonel from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and he served in the Ohio Army National Guard. I'm from Ohio too. Community service, he's chair of this committee, as I noted. He's chaired the Claremont County Planning Commission when he was there for, what, 10 years you had? Board of Directors, Claremont Chamber of Commerce for 25 years, and trustee Valley of Cincinnati. And then I introduced our other two, and just to remind you, this will be available on YouTube through Sun City TV, and they're going to get interviewed at the end. So this is Kraig Gordon, it's all his.
I'm very pleased to be able to be chairman of a very unique committee. And why is it unique? It's unique simply because we're appointed by county government. Each of the districts appoints a member to this committee. But after that, it stops. And what do I mean by that? The answer is pretty simple. We wind up reporting to the Department of Transportation. We're governed by the Department of Transportation. State legislature has passed a CTC law which governs how CTCs are operated, where we can spend money, where we can't spend money, our do's and don'ts. So that's kind of the introduction into it. My program is going to be set up in a fashion where the front portion of it is going to talk about we refer to it as CTC 101. It gives you the background of CTCs that are incorporated across the state. The state has 46 counties, and believe it or not, South Carolina is the 4th largest road network in the country, the 4th largest. After I make that presentation, I'm going to fall into and talk about what Beaufort County CTC has done, and we're going to go back to 2016, 2015, and come forward from that time. So that's kind of the way this is going to play out.
And questions at the end.
Yes, please, because a lot of what I'm going to present will be self-explanatory once you see the next slide after it. This actually started back in 1946. At that point in time, the C-Funds dollars were used to build the primary network of roads throughout the state. They used gas tax and licensing fees to fund it. The General Assembly adopted measures dividing that state highway system into primary and secondaries. In '46, they put $6 million away for 3 years to work on primary secondary routes. And the reason for it was farm to market. South Carolina, believe it or not, is, if you leave Sun City, this area, go over to Ladies Island and so on, there's farms, tomato farms, all sorts of different farms throughout the county and throughout the state as well. Okay, Joe, let's see if I do this right. There we go. All right. In 1951, the construction fund was divided into 3 programs. The C in this does not stand for county, but it does stand for state secondary. And these were how the budgets were set up. Federal aid funds, there are federal aid routes in the state. There's miscellaneous state funds, and then state secondary funds. Not much was done. The state was finding itself, I guess, throughout this era. And it wasn't until 1991 when they suddenly realized that we needed to really dedicate funds to developing road networks and turn that into counties because, very frankly, local governments weren't spending money on developing road networks. In 1976, the C-Fund law was established. That's what I was referring to earlier. C-Funds were derived from a 2.66 cent per gallon of state gasoline taxes. Our funds were held, and I'm going to keep up with myself here. Yeah. Our funds were held by the state treasurer and distributed by SCDOT. They made monthly distributions. Now there's a term there that's relatively important, self-administered. And again, I'll talk a little bit in some future slides about what that really means and how that affects us. In 1994, donor funds were introduced. Donor funds are tied into counties which pay more gasoline tax dollars into the state coffers than they get back. So the state tried to equalize it and started donor funds. The nice thing about donor funds is we don't have to use those dollars on state highways. They are strictly used back in the county. We are required by state statute to spend 33% of the money we're given on state highways. No questions asked. We're audited to that effect on an annual basis. In 1997, Act 144 made certain we got our interest funds. They were collecting interest on the money that we were getting. Then they decided, well, we shouldn't keep those funds. We need to revert those back to the individual counties. Currently, you see it says 3.99 cents. That was in Act 41 back in 2018, whenever the state passed a gasoline tax increase and stair-stepped it over a 6-year period, increasing it 2 cents per year. Apportionment. In the state statute, they come up with a funding law, and that's the right way to describe it. How is it fair to fund dollars to across the state and make it proportionate to every county? Very difficult thing. Well, as you can see, they designed it in 3 steps. 1/3 is based upon the land ratio of the county against the square footage or the square miles of the state. So, and I'll show you what ours is in a couple slides down. The next is based upon the ratio of the county population. We're roughly 185,000 to 190,000. It's done every 10 years with the census. And with that, they update it then 2 years after the census. We're 185,000 out of about 5.2 million in the state. And the last is 1/3 is based upon the road mileage in the state against what's in the state. We have roughly 900 and some miles of roads in the county, and that goes against 44,000 in the state. So that's how it's all designed and proportionate out. Mentioned earlier about the term self-administered. It's pretty simple to describe. There are counties which are small, go to Barnwell, Allendale, real small counties, Aiken in population, and what they don't have the expertise to do the program in-house themselves. And the other thing was that our delegation wanted us to be self-administered because we look at the roads, we live here. Our job should be tied into looking and working with our community to ensure that the community's needs are met. So you can see Beaufort down here, and as you look at it, you'll also recognize that most of these, Colleton, Berkeley, Charleston, are all larger counties throughout the state. This shows our funding, and what I mean by that is it's going to track what is given statewide to the CTCs, that's on the light blue. The middle is the donor bonus, and then the last column to the right is one-time funds. Back in 2023, the state legislature gave us, I'll point right there, gave us $250 million. And of that, we got roughly $6 million, and it was a lot to be able to get in 1 year's time span and get it all bid, put it out to work. And it was one of the topics I brought up at the SCDOT meeting a couple weeks ago. So there's, you can see, we don't know what fiscal year 25 is. Fiscal year 25 starts for us in July 1. We run on a fiscal year basis, not a calendar year basis for funding. Here's the distribution, and I'll see if I can do okay with this arrow. Here's Beaufort County. There it says 5.76 square mile. That contributes 1.92% of the state. Our population is 187,000. That contributes 3.66. Come over then, rural miles, 8.93, which is a 1.37. And then when you add it out, round it out, we get 2.31% of the apportionment that the state gets. So that's how it's divided out. You can see all the other counties. When I went through and counted previously, I think we were the 10th or 11th largest county funding-wise in the state. When you look at Charleston, right there, you can see they're getting 4.32. Richland, there's Spartanburg, they're getting 4.56. There's Richland, they're getting 4.77. So you can see it works out proportionally across the state on how our funding is distributed. This is what the gas tax has been giving through the years, what we've received. In fiscal year 18 was 75 million, and we're projecting in fiscal year 25, 115 million. Donor bonus. Again, I go back and this is the percent that we get back, given back to us from what we've given more to the state than what they've given back to us. And you'll see a slide later on which breaks this out. This for the distributions. And again, these are the counties which get the bonus dollars. And you can come up. That's what the receipts were. That was what our allocation was going to be. By the time they divided it up, it comes over. We got $708,000 additionally, above and beyond roughly the $2.5 million we collect. One-time funding, we only got $20 million last year. The prior years, I said, we got $250 million. We have no idea what the legislature is going to give us for fiscal year 25. This shows what gas tax was generated for the C fund, the 3.99 cents per gallon, 114 million. The donor bonus was $20 million. One-time funding was $20 million. And so the C fund total statewide got 155 million, and it was distributed based upon the formula that I showed you previously. No idea. This is what 2025 is going to deliver. We are required to be audited, and we're required to be audited, and there's points at which we have to follow. First of all, we have to follow the state's regulations on purchasing. We have to go and look at our 33% that we're required to spend on state routes. They can actually stop funding us if we do not follow the regulations. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to slap us on the hand automatically and say, hey, most of the time you can sit and talk to them, and they do allow us to do a 2-year averaging. So it's over 2 years. The average has to be 33% we're spending on state routes. We're also in a situation where we're not allowed to maintain a balance in our checkbook of 300% above our annual apportionment. So take the $2.5 million, that means we're roughly $750 million or $7.5 million that we can't have in our books. It's basically requiring us to spend our money, not to sit on it, not spend it on state routes. The one-time funding does create problems for us because it's amazing. We all came from different locations, but how many contractors do you think are able to do our work here? I know I've asked you not to talk, but I'll answer. 2. How many asphalt plants do we have? 1. How many asphalt plants do we have in the state? 12. There's one here outside Ridgeland, there's one in Charleston, and those are our closest asphalt plants. There is one in Savannah, but they typically don't pull from Savannah into our area. So it's a problem, workforce problem that's really an issue for us. Okay, we're going to stop on this for a second. As I said to you, I wanted to talk about our committee. In 2015, the our state legislators for our district called the delegation, made the decision that they had previously appointed members to the CTC rather than allowing the county council to do that such. And they basically felt it was wrong. Well, January 2016, I was elected chairman, and not long after that realized that all the county had been doing previously was paving dirt roads. They had no idea the condition of the road network. They had never done an inventory of the road network. And so one of the first things we did was have our roads, there's an ASTM that grades roads. That's a polite way of saying it. They go out and measure the deflections, cracking, and all the issues that a route might have throughout the county. We did not only the county's roads the first time, and that's in 2017. And what we found was we had 0 roads in fair or good condition. 0. Well, what happened was, if you're managing your network properly, we did it again 4 years later. We went to from 2017 to 2021. With that, we then got another report breaking down the condition of our road network. So it was an oversight not having this in my packet. The system as a whole increased its pavement quality index from 3.04 to 3.21. That's in 4 years. The PQI of treated roads increased by 0.79. That's an amazing number. Untreated roads remain relatively stable. 67.3 miles of roads are now considered very good versus 0 that were rated very good in 2017. And all in all, it was 78 miles that were either good, very good, or good. And we had, at that time, 1 mile of road that was rated very poor, which we took care of in year 6. Now, I'll jump to these slides. As I said, we go through and have different treatments. And what you're going to see is county roads here, where we spend $2.313 million, and SCDOT, we spent $1.7 million. We did mill and overlay, we did hot mix asphalt overlay, and we did thin lifts, which are basically an inch overlay. And these are some of the routes that got the thin lift. And those are streets which aren't heavily traveled. Reservation, we did microsurfacing, which is a minor overlay, and what's the criterion it needs to have is the road base has to be in very, very good condition. Otherwise, we'd be wasting our money in it. Rejuvenator. Rejuvenator is a very unique product. It's proprietary. Rejuvenator is a product called Reclamite, and the company is called Pavement Technology out of Cleveland. I'm sure you've been out and looked at, whether it's on a golf course path or other roads throughout the area, and you've seen how it turned kind of a gray color. What happens is, the term is the volatiles. That comes from the asphalt. That's what makes asphalt flexible. That's why it's bituminous asphalt paving is a flexible pavement. It's allowed to move. It needs to expand and contract. Well, whenever you take the volatiles out of it, it isn't able to expand and contract. So what we're doing is coming back in using a proprietary product and had phenomenal success with it. And this I'm kind of proud of. When we started in 2016, you can see we had no roads in the county that were being taken care of. And we did 34 miles in DOT. Well, come down to here, and you'll see if you add all this up, we have taken care of over 70 miles of SCDOT routes, and we've taken care of 197 total in the county and roughly 120 miles of our routes, county roads. To put that in perspective, we have all told roughly 200 miles of our own county-owned routes throughout the area. And as I said, we started with the 5-year plan for the county routes. We're on our second 5-year plan. One of the things that we realized, we were very much on the case for SCDOT. They hadn't evaluated our state secondary and our primary routes in years. I went through and did listings, and I had routes that hadn't been evaluated in 18, 16, or more years. Well, how can we do anything? How can we wisely spend the money on their routes to make everything improvements to the routes, the road network? Well, they had hired a Canadian firm to come down and did the same thing that we've done. And what I mean by that is they did a road analysis, a pavement quality index analysis. And it was kind of a surprising results. We found that there was over 200 miles of county or out of state secondaries that had an ADT of 500 or less. ADT stands for average daily traffic. 500 or less is almost no traffic whatsoever on a road. And so when we looked at the state directive 63 and 64, we found that routes with 2,000 ADT or less would never meet the criteria for DOT to spend any money on them. No way would they touch them. They don't meet the criteria. So what happened was we made a decision and voted them, and it was a unanimous decision. We did a 5-year plan for routes 500 and less, and it's starting this year, meaning in July, 500 ADT or less. And next year, we have it now out to bid for those routes which are from 500 to 2,000. We're going to put together another 5-year plan. Now, what's that mean? How do we come by deciding whose road gets paved? Essentially, we gave the engineers criteria, which they were required to follow, and with that, we gave them the dollar amount that we were able to spend annually. In this case, 500 or less is $500,000. 500 to 2,000 is $500,000. So we're funding, those are where we're going to spend our money on state routes. We're going to spend $2.5 to $3 million on all total, leaving us with about $2 million to spend on our roads. So as a whole, that is a picture of the County Transportation Committee. I feel that the committee has done a fantastic job of looking after and taking the responsibility of the network system that the county has given us to take care of. We've done our best to do a great job for you.